Welcome to Muslim Network TV. This is Imam Malik Mujahid, and this is a show I do, Mujahid Talks. Well, essentially, I don't talk as much as I like our guests to talk. Fascism in India is rising and is strengthening. In some other countries as well, right-wing extremism is noticeable, but here it controls the government and the society, and it has been doing it for a while. One of its ideologues, probably the most prominent person who has popularized Hindutva, that's the self-named ideology, by Savarkar. Savarkar is the ideologue of that. Interesting enough, he was an atheist, but he led a Hindu organization called Hindu Mahasabha, and he was the main person. He died in 1966, but he lives in the temples, in the Indian parliament. He's highly respected and highly read. And although he was leader of Hindu Mahasabha, but now it seems he was a leader of RSS, which is described by many scholars and researchers as the paramilitary organizations of India, which has 50,000 gathering, they claim, of their paramilitary forces every day in India. But not only that, they also claim that they have 10,000 meetings every week for the social media. So social media has become the main vehicle to organize. In 1948, Indian government charged Savarkar, among others, as people who are responsible for the murder of Gandhi. His colleague and follower, Godse, was sentenced to death. He has written a book available on Amazon, Why I Killed Gandhi. And sometimes is worshipped there in India by some extreme people. But the ideology, but Savarkar was acquitted because the government couldn't prove the connection. But there is an author, investigative reporter, who has devoted his life taking a lot of risk fighting fascism. He believes that Savarkar actually, indeed, was involved in the murder of Gandhi. So he's thinking, and he's written an article, but now he's about to publish a book. And the grandson of Savarkar actually sued him. So this journalist showed up with 21,000 pages of document in the court, and his grandson ended up apologizing to him in writing. We have Niranjan Thakle with us. Welcome to Muslim Network TV.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Share with us, who was Savarkar, for people who do not know. But let me share with our audience that you are essentially trained as an engineer, served India as an engineer, but to serve India in different ways to fight fascism, you decided to become a journalist. And your book, Who Killed Judge Loya, a high-profile judge in India who was investigating Amit Shah, who is second in command in Indian government, a member of RSS, who controlled the Indian intelligence and Indian federal law enforcement as a home minister, who was investigated and charged and arrested in India for the killing of the judge who was presiding. but the government took away the security of the judge. He was taken to RSS city where RSS is headquartered in Nagpur. And in the presence of many people, he was found dead. And now you lost your job and everything because of that. And you're taking further step in writing about Savarkar. So tell us, who was Savarkar?
Savarkar was the first proponent of Hindutva. In fact, Hindutva is the word which Savarkar coined. This word was never in use in the past before Savarkar coined it. And Savarkar not only coined it, Savarkar wrote a book titled Hindutva in 1923. And he articulated what that ideology means. He also described who is eligible to be the citizen of India, and that definition itself is discriminatory on the lines of religion. So this is what Savarkar proposed in 1923. In that book, in 1923's book titled Hindutva, he also articulated the two-nation theory. He wrote, in fact, that Hindus and Muslims cannot be one homogeneous nation. They are essentially two different nations. And that's where the two-nation theory among the Hindus began. After that, of course, he passed it as a resolution of his political party, the two-nation theory, and which culminated into the partition of India. But before writing the book, he was a freedom fighter. He didn't took part directly in the freedom struggle, but he was charged for a murder, and he was sent to the cellular jail in the months for a 2-term life imprisonment. But I divide his political social career in 4 parts. In the beginning, he was a romantic revolutionary. He had romanticized revolution and romantic idea about revolution. When he met with the reality, he surrendered to the British and compromised.
So, what are the things which are bothering his grandson, Ranjit Savarkar, who filed a lawsuit on you? Tell us a little bit why he filed a lawsuit, what actually happened during that process.
Actually, when that story was published, it was titled "A Lamb Lionized." The reason for that story was that after Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister of India, after BJP became the ruling party of India, many members of parliament of his political party started demanding that Savarkar should be conferred with the highest Indian civilian award, that is Bharat Ratna. And that's when I thought of revisiting the history and find out whether he deserves a Bharat Ratna. So I started digging out many archival documents from National Archives in Delhi, Nehru Memorial Library archives, the Cellular Jail archives. Apart from that, autobiographies of many contemporary revolutionaries, then Indian archives in London. So after doing all that research, I wrote that article. And we had a very, many television channels in India held a panel discussion about that particular story. And in one of the discussions, Savarkar's descendant said that Niranjan has defamed Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, and his entire intention was to defame Savarkar because he has not written a single sentence about Savarkar's literature, Savarkar's poetry, Savarkar's efforts to purify Marathi language, and his social work and his atheist approach towards social life in India. So he didn't write about that, and he didn't write it because he wanted to defame Savarkar. So actually, I had questioned him that, what exactly do you object to? Do you object to what I have written, or do you object to something which I have not written? So that was the argument. And Later he filed. In fact, he filed a case against me after almost 3.5 years after the story was published, and that defamation suit was filed in Mumbai. So, of course, the magazine which had published the story apologized, but I had made it public right from day one that I am going to prove every word that I have written, and that's how it was.
So what was the result of the case? Who won the case?
Yeah, technically speaking, see, he was the complainant, so he wanted to withdraw the case, and but I had an objection that I want to fight the case, but see, according to the judicial procedure, if the complainant wants to withdraw the case, then the defendant doesn't have a choice. So I said that in that case, I would like to file a case for defaming me, for trying to defame me, or for my penal damages. And if he doesn't want to face that case, then probably the complainant will have to give an apology. And only in such case the case could be dismissed. So that's how it happened, and because I wanted to make a point that the legacy of apologizing continues, and that's how it happened, and that's how. After that, in fact, I decided that I'll write a book about it, including that last apology.
So, what do you mean by apology, a legacy of apology? Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, for example, the story which I had written for the Week magazine, in that story, I had written about the 6 personal mercy petitions that he had given. What happens is that the supporters of Savarkar say that he had applied for the for the general amnesty, and there were thousands of prisoners in India who had applied for the general amnesty. But Savarkar is a very peculiar case. He had applied 6 times for a personal mercy petitions. In fact, the subject of the petitions he would write as clemency petition. And apart from him, 3 mercy petitions were submitted by his brother, 3 mercy petitions were submitted by his wife, 3 mercy petitions were submitted by his brother's wife. So there were total 15 mercy petitions submitted on behalf of Savarkar. And in case of the prisoners incarcerated in cellular jail in Andamans, there were almost 80,000 prisoners incarcerated over a period of 40 years in the cellular jail. But out of 80,000 prisoners, there were thousands of Muslim prisoners, there were thousands of Sikh revolutionaries, there were thousands of Bengali revolutionaries, but there were only 3 prisoners who filed personal mercy petitions. Out of that, 2 were Savarkar brothers, and the third was Barin Ghosh. He was younger son of Arbindo Ghosh. So these were the 3 prisoners who had filed personal mercy petitions. So I had mentioned about those personal mercy petitions. I also see if it is a one petition, then you would call it as a mercy petition, or a petitioner who filed for mercy. But when there are 15 mercy petitions, I called him as a mercy beggar, and eventually he was granted remission from the imprisonment. He was first jailed for 50 years of life imprisonment, 2 terms of 25 years of life imprisonment. But he was in cellular jail for 9 years and 10 months, from 4th July 1911 to 2nd May 1921. So he was there in cellular jail for 9 years and 10 months. There were a number of prisoners who served almost 3 times. And for example, Trailokanath Chakravarti was one prisoner whose autobiography is titled as 30 years in prison. So he was there for 30 years. There were prisoners like Ullaskar Dutt who served twice or thrice their imprisonment in the cellular jail. They were released. They again participated in the freedom struggle. They were again jailed in the cellular jail. So there were many such prisoners. But in Savarkar brothers is a very peculiar case where they filed mercy petitions and later they collaborated with the British Empire.
So this is something, what is in this mercy petition, which is objectionable, other than the point that the other freedom fighters were willing to serve their term instead of begging for forgiveness from the British colonizer. But you're saying not only he had mercy petition, 15 of those, but also that he became a collaborator. So could you define what was in the mercy petition, which is objectionable, other than the fact which you're mentioning, the mercy petition itself, and how he became a collaborator?
See, Savarkar was a master of words. I mean, he was proficient in English, he was proficient in Sanskrit, he was proficient in Hindi, and of course, his mother tongue Marathi. So, I'll give you an example. In one of the mercy petitions, he wrote that where else will this prodigal son turn but to the merciful doors of the parental government? I beg to remain your most obedient servant. And he signed below that. So this is the kind of language. Apart from that, in mercy petitions, he himself voluntarily proposed to the British government that he is ready to serve the British government. He will do everything that the British government expects him to do. He also suggested, in a very typical Savarkar way, that the Turkey-Afghan challenge is imminent to attack India, and to counter that challenge, he will collaborate, he will cooperate with the British Empire. And now, in that sentence, he suggests that probably a Muslim challenge is going to be there, very prominent for the British India, and he is ready to cooperate with the British Empire in order to counter that. Later, what happened is he meets Reginald Craddock, the Secretary of the Home Department at that point in time, and he gives his fourth mercy petition. The next day, after he met Reginald Craddock, that is on the 14th November 1914, Savarkar was, he was given a job of supervisor to monitor over the oil depot. So whatever labor work he had to do in the beginning, in the initial 3 years of his imprisonment, that was of rope making, and after that he was moved up, promoted to be the supervisor of the oil depot. He never had a physical duty as such afterwards in the cellular jail. And that's what he later, in fact, while signing an agreement with Viceroy Linlithgow, he once again mentioned that to fulfill the common objectives of the British Empire and its political party, Hindu Mahasabha, Savarkar will spend his rest of the life in opposing Gandhi, Muslims, and Congress. So he clearly mentioned the lines that he will be taking up politically in the future in India.
So here's a freedom fighter who has gone bad, who became a collaborator essentially. And why do you think current government and the leaders and RSS and BJP are willing to ignore his part of collaboration and want to focus his early life of a freedom fighter? I mean, unlike Gandhi, Gandhi also is accused of collaboration and racist ideas, but he moved away from those things. So this guy is going in the opposite direction.
He went completely in opposite direction. See, Gandhi gave timeless values to the world, I would say. He talked about non-violence, truth, justice, equality. brotherhood, secularism. And so these are the timeless values. I mean, you go to any nation of any religion or any color, everybody across the world wants these timeless values. Since this other ideology, which used to collaborate with the British Empire, didn't have any ideology, any narrative to set against these timeless values, so they opted for hatred and hatred on the lines of religion. Basically, this ideology of Hindutva believes in the supremacy of the uppermost caste, that is Brahmins. So essentially, it is a Brahminical idea. So this believes in Brahminical supremacy, and that's the reason why they promoted this ideology of hatred and bigotry based on the lines of religion and caste. And so that was it. Then Savarkar used to call Gandhi as a sissy, and he articulated this ideology of Hindutva, and he clearly mentioned in that book that Hindutva is a political doctrine and Hinduism has nothing to do with it. So, in fact, he differentiated between the two things. It's now that the supporters of Hindutva, the BJP or Vishwa Hindu Parishad or RSS, they are trying to confuse people, saying that Hinduism and Hindutva are the same thing, but they are completely different. Hindutva is a political doctrine based on hatred towards other religion, right? Hinduism is a way of life, and that's what Savarkar himself wrote in that particular book. And so that's the reason. And RSS, Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh or BJP, do not have a single example of having fought in the freedom struggle against the British Empire. And Savarkar is the only individual to whom they can connect to show that they too were there in the freedom struggle. But Savarkar too had compromised, in fact, collaborated with the British to crush the freedom struggle. And he did everything in his capacity to divide that unity in India. He wanted that unity to be converted into uniformity. For example, its slogan was Hindi, Hindu, Hindustan. Now, India is such a diverse country where Hindi cannot be imposed as the only language. But that was his slogan. He wanted to confine it into uniformity. So that's the reason why BJP has to show support for Savarkar. And he was their first ideologue. He was the only one who articulated the ideology for the political wing.
You're watching Muslim Network TV, and we're talking about India from an investigative reporter who's taking risk for his life and for his family, but writing on what is happening in India. Of course, we are talking about a person who was born more than 100 years ago, but right now, his ideology rules India. And we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to Muslim Network TV. India is struggling between Gandhi and Savarkar. You have heard of Gandhi, may not have heard of Savarkar, and there is a book about to come out by Niranjan Thakle, and he's writing that the current government of India and its paramilitary force, RSS, how they are using Savarkar and his ideologies. He even recently, Indian government passed citizenship laws. And Niranjan Thakle is saying that these ideas of who could be citizen of India were started by Savarkar more than 100 years ago. So we're discussing Savarkar today, but it is important to see that ideology of Gandhi, how that was not only ideology is going down, but the killer, Godse, is being celebrated. And Niranjan Thakle says that Savarkar somehow was involved. So, Niranjan, how Savarkar was involved in murdering Gandhi?
See, it is not. It's not only I who say about it. In 1966, 65, Government of India appointed a judicial commission. It's called as Jivan Lal Kapoor Commission to investigate into the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi. The reason for appointing the commission was that the two conspirators of Gandhiji's assassination, Gopal Godse, the assassin was Nathuram Godse, Nathuram Godse's younger brother, Gopal Godse, and another accomplice, Vishnu Karkare. So these accomplices had served their life imprisonment, and after serving life imprisonment, they were released in 1965. So after their release, there was a felicitation function in Pune, and during that felicitation of these two prisoners, the two accused, one of the speakers, who was an editor of a Marathi daily called Kesari, he said, his name was Gavi Ketkar. He said that Nathuram had talked to him about the conspiracy of Gandhiji's assassination, and he knew in advance that Gandhiji would get killed by Nathuram. So, since that speech got published, there was huge uproar in the Parliament of India, and people, the member of Parliament, demanded that there has to be another investigation, because it seems that many other people who were not tried in the court knew about the conspiracy in advance. So investigate that. Now, when that Kapoor Commission was investigating the entire Gandhi assassination, two very crucial evidences came before the commission. One of the evidence, the two evidences were the confessional statements given by Savarkar's secretary and Savarkar's bodyguard. Their name were Gajanan Vishnu Damle, was a private secretary of Savarkar, and Appa Kasar, the private bodyguard of Savarkar. And they corroborated, they confirmed that the conspiracy was hatched in Mumbai in Savarkar's residence. It is called Savarkar Sadan, it was called. So the conspiracy was hatched in Savarkar Sadan. All the accused used to visit frequently and used to have long discussions. And they also gave the dates on which they had visited Savarkar. They had visited Savarkar before 20th January, when Madan Lal Pahwa had exploded a bomb in Birla House, where Gandhiji was addressing the prayer meeting in the evening. That was the first attempt. The second attempt the successful attempt happened on the 30th of January. So they had met even before the last attempt to kill Gandhiji. So all these dates were given, the corroboration was there, and Savarkar was acquitted from the Gandhi murder case. on the basis of having lack of corroborative evidence. There was an approver in place. Digambar Badge was an approver who had told the court that this conspiracy was hatched by Savarkar. Savarkar had even blessed these assassins before leaving his house. And Digambar Badge was cross-examined. He never failed to whatever he had told in his statement to the court. But there was no corroborative evidence. And because of that lack of corroborative evidence, Savarkar was acquitted. But this corroborative evidence came when the Judicial Commission was appointed. And the Judicial Commission, the Kapoor Commission, clearly concluded that the Commission doesn't have any doubt that the conspiracy was hatched under the leadership of Savarkar and the volunteers of Hindu Mahasabha, his political party, were used to assassinate Gandhi. So it's not only Niranjan who believes that Savarkar was one of the conspirators. It is the Judicial Commission of Kapoor Commission, appointed by the government of India under Commission of Inquiry Act, and the Commission's report was presented to the Parliament of India, which accepted the report. But by the time the report came, Savarkar had passed away.
Okay, so, but popularly, this particular information that a commission appointed by the government was finally found the corroborative evidence that Savarkar, ideologue of the current BJP and RSS of India, was actually involved in the murder of Gandhi. Why no one has made a documentary about it? Why this notion that these are the killers of Gandhi is not as much known? The whole thing goes about the Godse.
Yeah, the whole thing goes about Godse. Savarkar, I would say, it's the Kapoor Commission report is a huge report. I mean, it's almost 700, 800, 900 pages long. Another thing is that it never got translated into regional languages in India. Well, there are hundreds of regional languages which people speak. And actually that report needs to get translated into other languages so that it reaches out to the maximum number of people. That never happened. Another thing is that the political party in power during all these many of the years was Congress party, and Congress never involved itself in discrediting other political leaders, even on the basis of truth. They kept focusing on policy and governance and delivery. So that was the focus of earlier regimes during that entire period. In fact, I would thank BJP government today because what we have learned through history is that the entire India participated in the 1942 quit movement. The entire India was in shock when the Jallianwala Bagh massacre happened. The entire India participated in the non-cooperation movement started by Gandhiji. The whole India participated in the Dandi March that Gandhiji took on. So they never, in our history books during our childhood, we were never taught that RSS or BJP or Hindu Mahasabha or Janasangh, they were never part of the freedom struggle. We were never taught about that. It is when the BJP came to power in 2014, they started discrediting Nehru, discrediting Gandhi, discrediting others, and glorifying Savarkar. So that was the time when we started revisiting the history to find out what really happened. And because of that, today we have come to know that these political parties of the right-wing Hindutva ideology actually never participated in the freedom struggle. On the contrary, they collaborated with the British Empire. So that's how nobody so far has made a documentary, but it's required now.
You are watching Muslim Network TV, and this is Malik Mujahid talking with Niranjan Thakle. who's an investigative reporter. We're talking about Gandhi in India and Savarkar. You have heard of Gandhi, not of Savarkar. Savarkar is one of the person Indian Commission established was the brain behind the assassination of Gandhi. We'll be right back after these messages.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back to Muslim Network TV. This is Malik Mujahid, and I have been talking with Niranjan Takle, and we'll continue our conversation. But let me share with you that addressing as a keynote speaker in northern India, essentially in a program organized by a Hindu temple, a person approached me, and very elderly person, respected persona around him, and he shared with me a magazine which was started by Gandhi. And I said, "Oh, that is started by Gandhi." He said, "Yes, I'm happy you recognize that." Then I say, "You should be the one delivering a speech instead of me." He said in his language, "Saab, Gandhi ko kaun puchta hai? Who cares for Gandhi?" And it shocked me. And I spent the rest of my couple of days, he took me to Gandhi Ashram, Gandhi Samadhi, and all those places. An extraordinary respect was given to me. And both of those places, there were hardly any people. So question to you, Niranjan, is that Gandhi, who, struggled against British, who is the founding father of the modern India, it seems that he is fading away and giving lip service, while his killers seems to be controlled and on the rise, on the march. What do you think about that observation?
I would like to share an experience. After BJP came to power in 2014, that is on 26th May of 2014, I was actually reading one of my grandfather's diaries. And my grandfather had lived very long. He was born in 1882 and he passed away in 1986. So he had seen a long period of history, especially the freedom struggle. So I was reading one of his diaries, and in that diary he had a page where he had mentioned that today was the first day when Gandhiji came to our hometown, Nasik, after returning from South Africa. So I was very curious to find out when Gandhiji returned to India from South Africa. So he had returned from South Africa on 9th January 1915. And I thought that it was the right time, because after returning from South Africa, he had traveled across India in the third class compartment of train to understand India, her miseries and problems. So I thought that this is the only political journey that any leader has taken to understand India. And to mark 100 years of Gandhiji's journey, I thought of traveling on the same route across India in the third class compartment of train, because the poorest India travels in that compartment. So I wanted to find out what India thinks about Gandhiji after 100 years of his journey. And especially when BJP had come to power. And I had a very memorable experience. I had traveled 17,432 kilometers across India in the third class compartment of Indian Railways in 2014-15. And I was traveling from Varanasi to Patna, from UP to Bihar, and it was the jam-packed train. I was sitting on the floor, and at 6:30 in the morning, the train stopped at Mughal Sarai station, the entry point of Bihar, and 10, 12 young student boys, 18, 19-year-old, they boarded train. So and they were, I mean, making noise at the door. So I leaned and I started clicking pictures. So they shouted at me, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, "I'm a journalist. I'm taking pictures." So after listening that I am a journalist, they came to me, and in that crowd, they managed to, I mean, push themselves, and they, five, six of them sat with me, and they started talking to me about Gandhi Nehru, Gandhi Patel, Gandhi Jina, Gandhi Savarkar. Uh, and one of the boys, who was a 19-year-old boy, his name was Mithun Singh. And he said that, "Babuji, don't say that Gandhiji has passed away. Gandhiji is still alive." So I said, that, "Why do you think that Gandhiji is still alive?" Because I was shocked that after BJP came to power in 2014, this boy is telling me that Gandhiji is still alive. And he said that there were people who praised Gandhiji's assassination in the past also. Now, the people who praise Gandhiji's assassin have come to power. They are talking about building a temple of in the memory of Gandhiji's assassin. But during all these 65, 70 years, none of them has dared to name their own children after Gandhi, after Gandhiji's assassin, Nathuram Godse. And as long as that shame and fear is there, जब तक वो शर्म और हया जिंदा है, तब तक गांधी जिंदा है. So Gandhiji is alive till then. Whenever they name their own children after Nathuram Godse, probably we can think that Gandhiji has passed away in this particular house. But until then, Gandhiji is still alive. And that was a time, and it was such a powerful thought coming from a boy who used to attend college in the morning and work as a labor on a construction site in the afternoon. He belonged to a very poor background. He didn't have access to smartphone or Wi-Fi, or he was not a member of modern libraries. That was his original thought. And at that point, I thought that if at all I have any whatever resources with me, I should invest that in that generation. And that generation gives me hope. And that's why I think that no, Gandhiji is still relevant in India. Gandhiji is still relevant for the world. And there are still people who follow Gandhiji, who follow his ideology of truth, non-violence, equality, justice, secularism. And that's the reason why I still keep hope.
Keeping hope is the way to go. But tell us this. I mean, among the policies which they're implementing is that the discriminatory model of citizenship. And you're saying it was Savarkar who came up with this idea, and he envisioned a same country in which Muslims live a subordinate position to the Hindus. Do you think what RSS and BJP regime is doing is trying to achieve that, to make give Muslim a subordinate position in the same society?
Yes, definitely. I mean, in that book titled Hindutva, Savarkar wrote that and only those can be called as the citizens of India, or Indians who have their fatherland and holy land in India. And he described that region from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. So only those people who have a holy land and fatherland in that region can be Indians. So that clearly meant that Muslims who have their holy land somewhere else outside India, Christians who have their holy land somewhere else outside India, Jews who have their holy land somewhere else, or even Buddhists who have their holy land outside India in Nepal. So they are not Indians. So this is what Savarkar defined in his ideology. What NRC and CA has been brought by the BJP government, it works on the same lines. They clearly discriminate the citizenship right on the lines of religion. and that's why majority of the India opposed the Citizenship Amendment Act. I mean, it's not only that. Golwalkar, in his book titled "We or Our Nationhood Defined," he wrote in that book that minorities in India, Christians, Muslims, and Dalits are the bloodsuckers. These minorities in India will have to either assimilate or merge with the majority community, or they will have to live at the mercy of the majority community. There will be no special rights given to them. So this is what Golwalkar, the second chief of RSS, articulated. I have already told you what Savarkar had articulated, and what BJP today is doing. It's simply implementation of what has been articulated in the past. I mean, even in case of, the rapists. I mean, when the 11 accused sentenced for life imprisonment for raping Bilkis Bano and for murdering 14 of her relatives, including her 3.5-year-old child, they were welcomed by BJP. They were given remission on the 15th August of 2022, on the 75th day of independence. They were welcomed by Vishwa Hindu Parishad. The sweets were distributed. They were garlanded. They were taken in a procession and felicitated afterwards as if they are freedom fighters. It happened because Savarkar in the past had articulated that rape is a political weapon and it should be exercised against your political opponents, because it demoralizes your opponent and they lose strength to fight back. So, you were instrumental in making rape as a war crime. So even during wars, rape is considered as a war crime. But Savarkar justified it for political opponents. So what BJP is doing today is exactly only the implementation of what has been already articulated in the past in writing. And it's not verbal, it's there in writing.
Yeah, you said that he wrote that young and beautiful Muslim girls should be captured, converted, and presented to warriors and things like that. Why India doesn't know that what Savarkar has been writing? I mean, you shared 2-3 different things. I mean, justifying rape, and which is happening now, justifying subjugating minorities, which is happening now. Their ideology seems to be being implemented. Well, the memory of Gandhi is romantically, you mentioned, even young children have. Indian government invest in putting the statues of Gandhi around America and other places. But Gandhi's ideology, other than lip service, is disappearing. But you're keeping a hope that the second generation will be better. But some of the reports which I am hearing is that the textbooks are being changed substantially across India, where BJP controls at the state level, and those books not only glorify the killers of Gandhi, but also, ignoring his ideas, insert the ideas of his killers. Do you think the textbook, the popular culture will be able to overcome what is being taught at school levels?
See, what I have been witnessing in the last 8 years is that they have been trying to do all possible attempts to rewrite history, to insert something which is completely contradictory to the idea of India and their own ideology of hatred and bigotry in the textbooks also. But as and when these incidences happen, there are also incidences of protest. People protest, people talk about it, people talk against those particular things. Although, activists, journalists, student leaders, they are getting jailed, they are getting incarcerated, they are getting punished for what truth they are talking. Although that is happening, There have been attempts, there are attempts of rewriting history and trying to teach the new generation in an entirely different manner. But again, the voices of dissent are also increasing. The people opposing such ideology of hatred are also increasing in numbers. Uh, Unfortunately, the media has completely surrendered. The mainstream media, I would say. But again, there are alternative medias like website, then YouTube channels who are talking against this propaganda by the Indian version of fascists. Definitely, BJP, Narendra Modi, or his entire political association has been walking exactly on the timelines of Hitler. But luckily, there are still many voices in India who are talking strongly against this ideology of hatred, and that's the reason why I say that yes, this this is going to be a very long battle. This is not going to be an easy one, and although it's going to be a difficult one, I'm sure that this ideology that of timeless values of truth, nonviolence, equality, social justice, brotherhood, fraternity, love, and secularism will eventually win. Definitely, it will win.
You mentioned that media is taken over completely by these people, and YouTube and websites is the way. But YouTube is popular, but YouTube is also substantially influenced by India. I remember there was something which an organization, Justice for All, put together about the the girls in Karnataka who are not allowed to go to school because there is scarf and all that. And YouTube banned 7 different, pitches on that. And the people who were banning, they have Indian names as they were communicating with the Justice for All staff. And invading the offices of Twitter, and Twitter and different Google hiring people of this ideology appointed by the Indian government. And so social media will have a limit. And you yourself, you have this book who killed Justice Loya and Judge Loya, and then the paper who funded that, The Week, refused to publish it. And since then, you have not been able to find a job. So how do you personally keep this hope alive?
As I said, I had that experience in the train while interacting with a very young generation of 18, 19-year-old students. And apart from that, what we have seen across India, the students in Andhra Pradesh, Hyderabad University, they protested. Rohit Vemula was the one who even had to sacrifice his life during that struggle because he belonged to a Dalit community. Then there were incidences in Jawaharlal Nehru University, one of the topmost and most respected universities in India. The student leaders in JNU, Jawaharlal Nehru University, also protested. They are still protesting on Jamia Millia students, for that matter. So this is the new generation. And they have been protesting against every wrongdoing of that has been going on. And so that's the reason why I see hope in that. Even personally, now everybody says that I have taken risk and whatever, but my family has never pulled me back. They have always supported me. I have my only daughter, my wife. They have always supported me. They have backed me. So yes, there are such people in the society who are ready to do their bit, who are ready to sacrifice whatever is needed. So I definitely am sure that fine. And ultimately, this is a fact that hatred brings fatigue. I mean, anybody who bears hatred ultimately gets tired of it. And any person who hates anybody in his life cannot love anybody in his entire life. So that's it. Something which I believe in, and so this hatred, I would say, hatred has an expiry date, while love is timeless. So this hatred is bound to die one day, and India will once again be the same India, the secular, democratic, socialist republic.
Well, I'm talking with Niranjan Takle, who for 7 years now, 5 years now, have been unemployed because he's a journalist who does investigation, writes on difficult topic which hurts the government. And he's an example of how India has become 150th lowest country out of 180 countries when it comes to media freedom. That's why Freedom House have declared that India is partially free. But hope is alive. He's working. He's continuously, with the support of his family, continue to strive. Would you say, Niranjan, that what is happening in India is ideological fight between what Gandhi stood for and what Savarkar stood for?
Yes, definitely. It's an ideological battle between these two poles apart ideologies. And actually, in my that story which I had written about Gandhiji, Gandhiji's Yatra, journey across India, the concluding paragraph of that, I would like to tell you about that. After Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister of India, I mean, most of the people know that in the Central Hall of the Parliament, Gandhiji's photograph is placed exactly opposite Savarkar's photograph. So the entire cabinet of Narendra Modi had gathered in the Central Hall of the Indian Parliament to pay respects to Savarkar. And unknowingly, while paying respects to Savarkar, they had to turn their back towards Gandhi. And that is the political reality of India. If you want to accept Gandhi, you have to turn your back completely towards Savarkar. Or if you want to accept Savarkar, then you have to turn your back towards Gandhi. So this is a political reality of India. This is just an example that how it actually had happened. And that's the reason why I say that, yes, this is definitely a battle, a long battle against these two ideologies. And yes, eventually the ideology of truth, non-violence, and secularism will definitely win. As a journalist, it is my duty to tell the truth and shame the devil. So, whatever the cost is, yes, I will have to bear that. But this is the truth right now.
Well, thank you so much, Niranjan Takle, for standing up for what you believe. Thank you so much for your time. Truly appreciate your bravery.
Thank you.
You're watching Muslim Network TV on Galaxy 19 satellite, as well as Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, on our own website, muslimnetwork.tv, as well as on your own iPhone and Android. We'll be right back after these messages with other programming of Muslim Network TV. Peace. Salam.